Welcome, accomplices. This is an exciting day for me. I'm visiting with my friend Tracy Lebenzon, who creates these masterpieces for me and for other artists, painters and potters, and all kinds of creative people. And Tracy's in his studio, and I'll let him tell you exactly where that is.
Linda, hi, good morning. Thank you so much for having me on. And in answer to your question, I'm located 25 miles into the woods down by Mount Rainier in Washington State. And just as a brief note, the transmission lines run through telephone poles all the way mostly through the forest. And as a result of that, there's sometimes a little bit of a lag and sometimes, not rarely, but sometimes the signal drop out. It's the only downside to being in this area. And it gives me extensive opportunity to make the brushes, which is a good thing because it's a pretty involved process. And
Hmm.
how are you doing today? Tell us about where your studio is located.
I'm doing very well, thanks, Tracy. I'm in the Okanagan Valley, a city called Kelowna. We have a beautiful lake running not far from my home. It's about a 10-minute walk, and I can be on the lake shore. So that
Nice.
inspires a lot of my paintings. Those that know me know that I'm a very loose, intuitive landscape painter. That's my preference. I do other things, but always fall back to the landscapes and the loose, intuitive, and that's where I just found that your brushes work um, work for, I call them workhorses, and especially my little 1.5 inch goat synthetic blend that I've had. I can't remember when I received this, Tracy, when I ordered it, but when I think I've mentioned to you before, when I opened the package, I was so excited, and the minute I had it in my hand, it was like you'd made it exactly for me, and uh, and I use this every day for well, I can do entire paintings with just this one little beauty. So, and I love that, you've got the beautiful natural part of the bamboo on it and the bristles. And I know you're going to tell us about these bristles, but the precision, and I've had this for years, and it still has that precision tip. I can create the finest details, and yet I can do big washes and create lovely textures as well. So that's my 2 cents worth. I used other brushes as well, and you've got a lot of brushes for watercolor artists, and I have a little selection of them here, and I think you've got some there. Maybe you can start off with telling us maybe what your inspiration is as well.
Sure. Well, thank you. Well, my original inspiration came from my cousin Keith. Keith was the founder of Lebenzon paintbrushes back in the late 1970s. When I was just starting out in college, I had moved from Seattle to Portland to go to school, and he was a relative, of course, and one of the few people that was close-ish. I'm the youngest in my family, so in 2 generations, the span goes upwards of like 30 years between the oldest of the older generation. Keith was a mere 10 years older than me, and we had a lot of similar interests, art being one of the main ones. So he invited me over to his studio, and we hung out there for hours and had a great time together. And he told me about his history in art. He was a potter initially and then became a brush maker. He likes to tell a story where he held up a piece of bamboo, and then I don't have one in front of me right now, but he put something that looked vaguely like a paint bristle in it. And it's just like, Eureka, I discovered this thing. And he literally was one of the first people to use bamboo for paintbrushes. And that particular revelation on his part literally changed his life. And he, for 20 plus years, did showed his paintbrushes at art shows all over the United States. And I think beyond, I don't know where all he went, but he absolutely loved the work. It was a great opportunity. And that was back when I was just starting in school. And of course, it's a long time between there and when I picked up being a brush maker. But I thought it was just a fabulous way to make a living. And it was a really major change for me. After I finished school, I spent a good long time being a technical consultant for computers and computer networks, which I loved every minute of. But honestly, you do something for 30 years, it really is time to move on to something else. And I had made a few bucks during the time, so I was able to subsidize the work. As you know, as an artist, it takes a lot of work to be able to do what we're doing right now, which is to be able to have a conversation with somebody. You have years of working as a painter and dozens of shows behind you and a lot of experience interacting with people and gaining wide approval along the way. And my story is very similar. And there's nothing more unnerving than like the first show that you go to where you make all this stuff, you have to do all the work ahead of time, and you just hope that it works out really well.
Hmm.
And so anyway, that was the major influence, and it was success right from the very beginning. I remember at the very first show I did, which is at the Seattle Folklight Festival, somebody came up to me and said, "You really need to do this show. It's called the NCICA show." And I said, "The N what show?" And so it's this international pottery show that they have in a different place every year. And I bring 300 to 400 brushes with me at an average show because you never know what people are going to be interested in.
Hmm.
And the NCICA show is a 3-day show, and I literally sold everything. I was lucky it was in Portland, which is just a short drive away.
Yeah.
I sold everything I brought with me and got orders for, I don't remember how many more. I went, wow, this is just unbelievable. Who knew, you know? And but it's exactly what my cousin did for many years before then. And so I immediately from the outset broadened my offerings. I used to offer maybe, I don't remember, let's say 8, 10 different types of brushes. Each brush I've always offered in bristle lengths from about 3/4 of an inch up to 2, 3, 4 inches or longer in some cases. And now I'm way over 200. I don't even like to know anymore. Oftentimes people will say, "Can you make this for me?" And if it's interesting to me, I will make it. And then lo and behold, then you have to start stocking it and carrying it. So I'm kind of overly indulgent in that way. But if it helps the customers, and it helps me, so that's a win-win type of thing. The goat and synthetic blend was one of my earlier. When I first started out, I had a pure goat hair brush, which I don't have, and also the synthetic part is what I call my synthetic sable. And what I do with these things is I blend about 90% goat hair, and the rest is the synthetic sable. The synthetic sable, as you can see, is a little bit longer.
Hmm.
And so the combination of that, it's uniformly blended, it produces a really super fine point. And so it works not like two brushes at once, but like a blended brush. Goat hair is the most popular the world over because it holds hair. The only other thing that holds hair as well is like a Russian sable or a Kolinsky or my Siberian elk or any of the finer brushes that are designed to not designed, it's just the nature of the hair to really hold and deliver water very smoothly. And goat hair is the most popular because it's relatively inexpensive. And so when I was initially looking, I was looking for really high quality materials because you get out of things what you get into them. It's the basic rule of synergy. And so I found a line of goat hair that was actually intended to be for makeup brushes. And it was what's called double dressed, meaning it's very thoroughly cleaned 2 times and then cut very uniform for the purposes of makeup brushes. And then I had that and I was just offering goat hair brushes. And then from a manufacturer of bristle material that I came across, they had the synthetic sable. And what I really liked about that is it's hard to see here, but the diameter of the individual filaments is super fine. And then towards the tip, it's almost invisible to the eye. It's so fine. They taper them very, very finely. And so the result of that is just literally a hair fine tip on the things.
Hmm.
But because it's synthetic, it's got some feedback to it. And one of the things where I picked up from when my cousin did is I like to have brushes that have more tactile feedback under the theory, and it's really practical, that the more responsive the brush is, the easier it is to work with them, especially when you're doing fine detail. If you work with a Russian sable, as example, you simply have to know where the tip is because you get nothing back from it. It's super, super fine hair, and so there's no resistance to it. And so some people just have that mechanical skill. You probably do. Nothing else than by years of practice at it. But the goat and synthetic blend both delivers like the best sables, and it also has a far, far better tactile feedback than any of the traditional sables around there because it's a synthetic bristle, and so it's just springier.
Yeah.
And so after, I think it was 2 or 3 shows, it occurred to me, kind of like the moment I described Keith, if I do this and this, it will be that much nicer. And so I started to blend them. Boy, that's a story unto itself. I won't go into it too much, but you'd be amazed at how difficult it is to blend two types of materials that are literally the diameter of hair together and have them actually stay in the same general direction that you want them. So that was something that took a lot of experimentation and a lot of research. But anyway, after I got the first batch made, I said, I need to find somebody that can help me with this. And so I was able to do that. And so that was the birth of the goat and synthetic blend. And it, from the day I first offered it at shows, has and still is by far the most popular. My second most popular, ironically, is the synthetic sable that I offer, because it's not as good as a sable, I'll admit it freely, but it has better feedback and it's almost as good. A lot of watercolor has starches in it, and it's designed both to make the paint a little bit more sticky so it sticks to the material better, and also more viscous so it's easier to work with. And with the thing about synthetic bristles is that they don't hold water as well. They release it as well as natural hair, almost as well. These are all etched so that they actually have a little scribe on them that helps to control the release of it. And anyway, the longer version of it is that it by the time you make the material a little bit more sticky, the difference between a natural hairbrush and a synthetic brush just goes way, way down. That's why people that work with like heavy body and acrylics, in the past, they would work with, let's say like a boar hair, which I offer. And then a lot of them have gone just to the stiffer acrylics because the difference is slight. The main difference is that a boar hair has a lot more character in the bristles of it than a synthetic does. Synthetics are highly uniform. And I'm looking around to see if I have any others on my desk, but I really don't right now. And whereas natural hair, because natural hair is all slightly corkscrewed. And so that gives it a little bit of a texture. And when you paint, it'll give you just a little bit of a jagged edge, which may not even seem jagged, but it allows it to be like, let's say with a pony hair, a really soft material. And so you can do a very fine dry brush with it. And also, just for completeness with pony hair, it's one of the few that, for those that have a really fast hand, it's able to keep up with a faster hand.
I'm just trying to find my pony hair brush here so that I could, there it is. So apparently you can't see my other camera here, but I did, while you were talking about the goat synthetic blend, I did a little drawing of a tree with very fine branches and then some shrubbery around the bottom. So hopefully the folks at home watching can see that brush in action. And I just wanted to mention that's one of the things that I love about that little brush. I have goat hair brush in the form of hake brushes and different things, but I find that often the goat hair brushes they're so absorbent, for one thing, so you have to be really aware of how much water they hold, but also often they're too there's no control in them. There's no, without that synthetic in them, there's nothing to give you that bit of control and help to make that direction happen. But I've got the little pony hair here, and I've dipped it in the water.
Cool.
This is a medium pony hair, and so you were talking about dry brushing. So I'm going to just dip in my little palette here, and I'm just scuffling across the surface of the paper. And I love that it's like you say, it's soft enough, it's supple enough that it can sort of float over the surface of the paper, especially for watercolor artists who work on rough surface paper. It's absolutely ideal, and it just picks up those organic shapes from the paper itself, and absolutely lovely. Absolutely lovely.
Well, thank you. It's why I offered it. I try in my offerings, I try and solve technical problems that artists encounter in different arenas. And some of it is just the individual artist techniques. That's why I offer a range of brushes that are everything from super soft, which pony hair definitely is in that category, up to super stiff. And some people just like more feedback. Some people like less feedback. And then there's the broader arena of, they call it suitability for a particular task. And pony hair's example does a really soft, dry brush. Goat hair is ever so slightly more coarse. And then I also offer sabling and deer and moose hair, which are progressively coarser, much thicker diameter hair. I'll show you. I think I have a moose hair here. Yeah,
I
this
just
is,
as you were talking to, I took my goat or my pony brush and I added a bit more moisture to it, to the brush itself, so that it did hold that fine point. And honestly, it made just as nice a fine line as my goat hair. It was with a light touch.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it definitely is much more sensitive to touch. So this is moose hair. The individual filaments are much coarser, and it's of course a longer brush. These are most commonly used by potters, and but it also can work as a mop. But if you want to make redo lines very quickly, a moose hair brush is a really great way to do that type of thing. And not everything has to be done, as you know, by just meticulous attention to detail. Some of it, if you're lucky, the brush will do the hard work for you. And that's yet another of the reasons that I do that. So I showed you the small one. You showed us the medium one. This is the large diameter goat and synthetic blend. I think that's 1.5 inch bristle on it. And it's it's all the same material. This will still come to a hair fine point. This brush, the large diameter, I've had more artists that have written me and tell me that they have literally abandoned all their other brushes because this one does everything from a super fine point up to being able to do washes the length of the bristle and everything in between.
Yeah.
And of
I have
course,
I have that here too, so I'm just going to show really quickly. It does come to that beautiful fine point. We can make those fine lines. We
and
could
of
do a
course,
large wash for a sky. Absolutely. It's just phenomenal.
and of course, I assume they do that for a while, but everybody likes to try different things, and so, but it's really an honor that such a large diameter brush can get such high praise, and you don't come across that very often. As far as I know, I'm the only
Absolutely.
person. Thank you. As far as I know, I'm the only person that makes that goat and synthetic blend of brush, and I'm happy about that. I'd be kind of upset at this point if somebody else started offering it, I, but you can't really stop competition from doing things. So I'll call it something different.
Yeah.
Back in the original days when pianos went from being, and they still are, an enormous amount of work to make to something that's in the, let's say, high end of the commodity market, um, they started to put patents on the different designs for pianos. But all you have to do is change one or two minor details about how the piano is made. It can be the spring, it can be how the keys design, it can be how the chords are wound, or any combination of that and more. And it's then a completely separate patentable item. And so as a result, now we have huge competition everywhere. But even if somebody else did offer the blend, what mine are unique. It literally takes me 50 steps or more to make each brush I make. A large majority of it goes into the handle, but it's not nothing to make the bristles either. They oftentimes my bristles start from felts, and my silver fox is an example. I repurpose materials as much as possible because I actually care about where the source of the material comes from. My moose hair brush is going back to that. Oftentimes, what happens is somebody gets we'll call it a trophy, to be euphemistic about it, and it's a source of pride for them by whatever means they get it. They put it on the wall, they put it on the floor, whatever it might be. Sooner or later, most things over generations will end up in a closet, and then there are these things called estate sales. And most of what I get for my exotic materials come from estate sales. It's a good way to source the material. It doesn't always show up in good shape. I buy a percentage of what I get I can't use because it was in a smoker's house or it
Hmm.
was treated in some odd way, or I don't know what the history of them are. I can't really control what happens to them before they come into my hands, but I generally like to buy things that have been owned before and well taken care of.
Hmm.
And used to be easier to do, especially with like the Siberian elk and the Kalinsky and the Russian sables. But over time, it gets increasingly difficult to even find that stuff anymore, um, let alone to get it in good shape. So the
Hmm.
result is a lot of the stuff that I get tends to be on the older side, but hair is remarkable. Um, I'm not quite sure of the chemistry, but you can find samples of hair going back to the days of the pyramids and even before. It's amazingly stable as long as it's well taken care of. And not just human hair, but hair of all different types of animal species. If it
Hmm.
comes into contact with the earth or a damp environment, sure, it's going to break down. But if other than that, as long as it's well taken care of, it will last and last and last. So I don't have a problem getting things from estate sales as a result of that. It's usually like anything that's a treasure, even if it's a once treasure, it's taken care of as well as possible. It's somebody's
Hmm.
prized possession. And it makes it possible for me to offer the more exotic materials, materials like goat hair. Most people don't know it, but goats get haircuts on occasion. And so it doesn't really hurt them other than perhaps their dignity. And they're able to get um, several haircuts throughout a typical lifespan. Pony hair is
Hmm.
similar. The pony hair that I offer actually comes from virgin ponies. It's their first haircut. On the first haircut, pony hair has a slight taper to it, and after that, the hair just grows out straight. So if the hair breaks or falls out and comes out back on, it will grow out with a blunt tip to it. But the first growth is tapered. So
Wow.
that's why that's one of the details in the pony hair that I get, that it has to be a first cut, as it's called. And
That's amazing.
yeah, but it's renewable. That's the bigger point I'm after. So
Yeah.
I like to sleep at night, and I'm very much an animal lover here in the mountains. On a daily basis, I provide food for probably, oh, I would hate to even put a number on it this time of year because it's so cold out. I will see 30 to 40 birds every morning at my house, and they like to eat. And then
Mhm.
I also have generations of raccoons that have been showing up here. I'm a sucker for moms with babies, and so
Well,
I
and then
have,
you've provided lots of entertainment for the bears, I've heard.
in a manner of speaking, yeah. That thankfully, they were only here earlier this year. Last year, it was just the worst horror show. I had
Hmm.
four in my face, like this close, bear encounters over 3 days. They were right outside my sliding window, which is about 6 or 7 feet away from me right now.
Oh my God.
And this is from sound sleep to what's that funny noise, and then go over, and there is, I don't know how big they are. They get a lot bigger over the span of the year, but a several 100 pound bear that unfortunately, because I was feeding other wildlife, the bears pick up on the smell of that. It's not for
Hmm.
nothing they say they have a good sense of smell. And so I kind of invited it without really realizing I was doing that. I've had this place for well over 20 years, and prior to last year, there was never a bear problem here. And by here, I mean the wider community as well. And but I have 8 different bears that were within arm's reach of me over the span of not last summer, but the summer before. It was traumatic for me. I'd never felt my life so directly threatened so many times, but
Hmm.
thankfully, nothing ever came of it. And I spent, I had to stop feeding the animals across the board during that time frame because you just can't invite the bears back. It's something you don't want to have around you. And
Hmm.
so it all worked out okay. They did not come back this year, and I couldn't be happier for that. Um, it's one of the risks. My house, as I said before, is deep into the woods, and behind me that way, there is literally no public roads other than a few Forest Service roads until far on the other side of Mount Rainier National Park. That's like 60 miles. My backyard literally has no other residences on it, no buildings to speak of, no structures, no nothing, but a lot of wildlife. And
Hmm.
so the hill behind me, like coming down here, is the first encounter they have with people. And I couldn't be happier that after the 1 year that a lot of them came this way, they decided we aren't worth it. So I've had cougars before, but nothing like that.
Oh, thank
And
goodness. I thought of you the other day.
absolutely.
I was at one of my paint groups and we paint in a beautiful little uh, it used to be a home for the caretakers on the park, and now it's a community building. And we paint there every Wednesday morning, and it's
Oh,
right on the lake, right on the beach. And
wow.
one morning we just happened to look up, and there was a bear loping along the beach right outside the window from where we were. So I thought of you and your bears.
Were they black bears or brown bears, or could you tell?
That's a good question. I think it was a black bear, but I don't know. It looked black, but I don't know.
That the main difference is brown bears have a really big hump between their shoulder blades, but a black bear can have a similar but smaller hump. In the moment, it's really hard to go, is that this or that? Likely black bears are going to be more timid, whereas there's an old joke, just in the interest of telling a joke, there's they I haven't thought of it for a while. So the difference between a black bear and a brown bear, if you come across they call it scat. Um, a black bear will be, I won't go into details, but it'll have a certain shape. A brown bear will tend to smell like pepper spray, and also bells.
Oh my gosh.
There's a better way to tell that story. I haven't
Yeah,
told it for a
yeah.
long time, but anyway, if it's a brown bear, get away from them. And
Yeah,
if you
I'm
see a bear, go
pretty
ahead.
sure they're black bears around here. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, well,
just
it's their neighborhood, and I'm
yeah.
the interloper here, so I respect that. And so I've changed the way now I put the food for the critters on paper, and I change the paper every day. I used to
Mm,
use one of my first generations of packaging for my brushes is to put them in craft paper, and then I found bubble wrap is much lighter and also goes further. And
mhm.
so I have a lot of craft paper, and so I change that out every day, and it with it goes any of the smell of the food. So
Good, good, good.
that has contributed quite as well. I didn't want to give up feeding the critters.
So before we got diverted there, you were talking about your Siberian elk brushes. So I grabbed mine, and it doesn't say what size it is. It says a Wangi Siberian elk. That's all it says on the little label.
The
But
wing gear are all medium sized. They're medium diameter, about 6 millimeters to 7 millimeters, where the bristle meets the base, and that's where the diameter comes from. My smalls are between 2 and 4 millimeter, right there. I don't have any small diameter wangy ones. The medium with a cane handle, this are generally about 5 to 7 or 4 point something to 7. And
mhm.
then the larges are between 9 to 12. And then I have an extra large over that as well.
Okay. Well, I just was, giving an example here for those who can see it, and it's just as lovely as all your other brushes. Holds an amount of a good load of paint and water. It doesn't have quite the long point as some of the others, but still very usable to create fine lines if you use a light touch. And yeah, absolutely lovely.
Thank you. Yeah, the Siberian elk is a really good fine brush. It is similar to a Kolinsky. Um, it's got a very nice spring or snap to it, is what it's sometimes called. And so it makes the brush really responsive. I offer them from what I call my itty bitties. I talked about the smalls. This is a small, it's 3 millimeters. Itty bitty is about 1.5 millimeters right there, so
Hmm.
about half that diameter. And a lot of people like to use brushes that will make just a really fine brush for a really fine point. Most of my brushes make really fine points, so they're very versatile in that way. In other ways, and the itty bitties are designed expressly. Somebody asked me a while ago, "Can you make a brush that's just really, really tiny and then really short also?" And I said, "Sure." I hadn't made any at that point. They all started at about 3/4 of an inch in length, and so I started offering them in half inch, and then I started offering the itty bitties that were not only a half inch in length, and they go up to an inch in length, but also, like I said, about 1.5 millimeters in diameter. So
Hmm.
really small. It makes it very easy to do the finest details. Whiskers
Yeah.
on a cat here. Yeah, there we go.
Here we go. I was
And
showing it on my other camera as well. So hopefully people
cool.
get to see the difference between these two. So, and
Yeah. So go
yeah,
ahead.
I was just gonna say again, even the itty bitty holds a huge load. And just get my other paper here. And absolutely would stand up to any rigor on the market. Absolutely.
Thanks. So one of the details that I do to make brushes differently than others, well, there's a bunch of them, but on the topic of the bristle, literally, even though this one is an inch and a half long, the overall bristle is closer to 3 inches in length. And by having a lot of it hidden inside, even like one that's a 3/4 inch on the tip is going to have this long body to it. So I have a technique that I send along with the brush on how to break them in. The short version is you can put it in a glass or under running water, let it run for 15, 20 seconds. It will allow the brush to saturate, then add color and go from there. And the end result is that the brushes go 2, 3, 4, or 5 times what any other comparable brush does. And once you get it saturated, you just refill it as you normally would by dipping it in pigment, and they just go and go and go. So
Yeah,
the
I
end
know
result is a
it's interesting because I often wondered how far into the brush the handle the bristles actually went, and so that makes sense because I've had, like I said, I've had this one for years, and it has not lost one hair. It's just whereas other brushes, typically you're picking off hairs and stressing over how that's affecting your painting. So, um,
especially if you pick it off the painting. Now, my
Mhm.
brushes all come with a lifetime warranty for materials and workmanship. There is a thing called normal wear and tear. I can't help that, but I also provide instructions as to how to care for the brushes. But
Mhm.
I use a special material. I literally wear a full face respirator and run fans and have an open window so that I don't shorten my life in the process of using them. But it is very rare. I went through way over 20 different types of adhesives before I settled on this one. It's a real trick when you're bonding brush hair. I'm looking for one that's apart. I really don't have one. You need it to dry very quickly, but not so quickly that it won't fully saturate into the hair.
Mhm.
And so it took a long time to find that. If something dries too slowly, paintbrushes work on the principle of what's called capillary action, just like our blood vessels. You have long access things, tubes, and the material will travel along it just because of the pressure between the two. And brushes do the same thing. Well, a brush can't tell the difference between glue and paint, and the pressure is the same on them. So if you have a slow drying glue, you can take what started out as a really nice paintbrush and it ends up being basically an ice pick because the whole thing is saturated with glue. And so it is one of the remaining hardest things to do. Literally, one drop too much glue can transform a very nicely done brush into something that I have to throw away. And I
Wow.
literally lose still to this day upwards, it varies between 10% and about 30% of a batch from beginning to end. But the handles, the most common things are cracks that don't show up. When I put the glue into the bristle, they expand initially because the combination takes up more space. And then sometimes a crack that was invisible will show up at that point. And it also, the glue will saturate into the handle. And so I end up having things that go all the way through. And then I use a high power magnifying glass to look at everyone before it goes. And every now and again, I'll see a hair fine crack in that, or it'll show up before then. And
Mhm.
so I've gotten better at figuring that out along the way, but still, it's just not always possible because sometimes they don't reach the surface. And so anyway, I ended up making, every time I make a batch of brushes, if I want to make, let's say, 10 brushes, I'll make 13 to 15 that I'll start with, knowing that I'm going to lose between 10% to 30% of them along the way. So
Wow.
it's just the nature of the beast. It's also why I offer the warranty, because it's not inconceivable that something that made it past me will still develop a crack someplace between transporting it. So I ship my brushes all over the world, and some
Mhm.
places have really low humidity. And one of the things that's the hardest on bamboo is when they get a difference in the stress between one end and the other. And that can make one end shrink or expand, and the other can't catch up with it that quickly. So that can be a problem. It still only happens. There's probably not, some years it doesn't happen at all. Sometimes 1 to 3 times during the year, I'll get a brush back because it's developed a crack or has some other flaw in it. It
Mhm.
happens. It's the first rule in life.
Yeah.
And so it's one of the reasons that I offer the warranty I do. I want people to be happy with them. If they take care of it, and it's not hard to do, you just have to clean it, always dry it with the bristle going downhill. Once it's dry, stand it on its end like everybody else does. But if you just do your part to keep it clean, it will last literally 20, 30 years, something like that. And
Mhm.
there is normal wear and tear. Every couple of years, I get something back. It always seems to be the large ones, and people use these things like they're scrubbing tools sometimes, and you can see that the bristles are literally torn apart. And they will say, "Hey, this thing didn't last long," and you can see they never have been cleaned at all. And that's a very different creature. That's not my responsibility. If somebody doesn't want to clean their brush, but if you
Yeah,
do it, go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
always tell everyone that I can that my brushes they're a part of my team. They're precious to me, and I treat them like they are precious because
And
they do a big job, in the grand scheme of things here.
not only that, you get comfortable working with them. And so the combination of the material I use, which is very long lived, the fact that it doesn't have a ferrule on it, we all know the paperclip thing where you bend something repeatedly because
Hmm.
you bend it in the exact same space. It puts a lot of wear on that space. Before too long, it breaks. That's part of what a ferrule does. A ferrule usually, it's called an interface between the brush handle and the brush bristle. So it's clamped on here, and it also is glued and clamped at the other end. Well, at the other end, it causes the brush bristle to bend at the exact same space, and that's part of the reason that the brushes fall apart. The other part is that they don't want quality. it's a funny thing about brushes. A lot of things, fewer things today, but a lot of things put a real emphasis on quality. Look at a pair of Levi's as example. They are designed to last years and years and years of daily use. And it's a very well-made thing. And brushes are the other side of it. The clamp that you put on a wood handle, well, wood breathes. During the winter months, it will gain moisture. During the summer months, it will dry out. And also, if you completely saturate the brush, the same thing. It'll absorb the water and expand. Well, that clamp will loosen up over time, guaranteed. And so between the not good glue, putting the pressure on the bristle, the not good idea of clamping it, ideally they would clamp it and run something through it if you want a solid fit, but they don't do that because cost. And I found a way to engineer around that entirely. This is a wangi handle. It's actually a running root. Most of the bamboo I get, I put in ads in my area Craigslist, and I offer to clean up people's gardens. And it's a longer story, but the short version of it is the ideal garden hasn't been touched in 10 years. It's 10, 15 feet long, something like that. I'll go through and I'll make it a piece of living art and clean it up, and I get a trailer full of bamboo, and that comes back with me and sits in my worldwide headquarters, most commonly referred to as my garage, for a year or so, and it dries carefully, and then I will make brush handles out of it. And then some of the more exotic materials, I don't have the other one here, but this is known as wangi. It's the running root. If you've ever had bamboo that starts over at that neighbor's yard and ends up at that neighbor's yard, this is the reason, because this stuff grows faster than the bamboo does. And once it gets ground, it just never stops. Well, this stuff I import from Jakarta because it's the only place that it's dense enough. The stuff that grows even around here, you try and carve it and it literally just falls apart. Yeah, same type of material.
Mm-hmm.
And so this stuff I actually drill the middle out of, but it also has to sit for a year after I get it. And then again, it's also very corkscrewed. Here's one of the more curvy versions of it. Mm-hmm. And so one of the tricks to making this is to make this go straight so I can drill into it long enough. I drill about 3 inches down, and it gives me room to deal with the bristle length as well as the glue that goes into it. And so it's a different creature. It's a different amount of work I do on one of these than these. The nature of the work changes slightly. These come very jagged and they take a lot of work to make them comfortable in the hand. Bamboo is more similar, but you have to do a lot of work around the ends so that it has a nice curve to it. The back is filled. The bottom has to be very carefully sanded. If you do anything wrong with bamboo, its solution to every problem is simply to fall apart on you. And so, but the cool thing is if you just do everything right, it will last for generations. I have some artists that have brushes that were made by my cousin that date back to the 1980s that are still literally in daily use today. And so it really is good. It's part of the reason that I offer the warranty that I do. Mm-hmm. And so you can't go terribly wrong with it. Plus, the best part is that it has this wonderful ergonomic feel. You can rotate it in your finger as you want. There is no bad place for it. And because it's organic, and we're organic too, it just has a really nice feel in the hand that is unlike anything that a more traditional wood handle has, or a plastic handle. Plus, what's also cool about the wangi is because it's a root material, its very nature is to absorb perspiration. So if you work with one of these, it's subtle. You may never notice it, but your fingers will never perspire from using them because it literally absorbs the moisture right out of your fingers, and then it dissipates it along the length of it. So that's one of the cool things. This is one of my Silver Fox versions. This is the goat and synthetic version. What's unique about Silver Fox is that the individual fibers are, at the very tip, they are invisible. They are literally half the diameter of the goat and synthetic blend. You can't see it on camera. Someday I'll have to get a magnifying glass or pictures out to show it. But the very tips of them are all but invisible. The Silver Fox brush material comes from the guard hair, and so it ends up being a really long, superfine tapered V. The end result is that it works just like a sable, but it's springier than any other sable that's out there. And they're just a delight to work with. They're a lot of work to make because they come from the guard hair. It has to be combed out 3 times, 4 different times, and then only part of, I get pelts for these, only part of the pelt material can be used. And so there's a lot of waste that goes into it. And anyway, it's just a more expensive material to work with, but the results as far as a super fine brush that is very springy. The bigger ones are springier than the smaller ones are. And it just has the most exquisite point on it of anything. So it's one of my best offerings. And
I'm just using it now as you're speaking, and yeah, it's exquisite. It's just absolutely beautiful. This one doesn't have a wangy handle. I don't think. I don't.
that's a cane handle, right?
The cane handle.
It's a medium with a cane handle.
Yeah. But yeah, there's no worry about, a pigment load, water load, and that fine tip. Yeah, just like I say, each one of these, and my students come in and I let them try them, and they all feel exactly the same. It's like it was made for their hand. Um, and they're so light and they're so beautiful. And I mentioned to you earlier, I have some of the longer ones, and sometimes some of my students have smaller hands. And this is a Siberian goat synthetic blend. Because the handles are long, and you talked to me about that and explained that to me. And so can you just quickly tell me, so that anyone who does buy one and decides that they don't want to, a longer handle for whatever reason, why they should not chop it off?
Sure. Well, a couple of things on that. First, when you order, you can request details like a longer handle, a shorter handle, different colors. Because each brush is literally a one-of-a-kind creation, I don't guarantee that I can fulfill requests, but I'll do the best I can with what I have on hand at the time. With bamboo, as I was saying before, bamboo solves every problem in the same way, meaning it develops a crack or it falls apart. And so if you can, in theory, cut them, because I do, but what happens is that you open the possibility of the bamboo cracking or becoming damaged. So if it's too long, too short, let me know about it. I will do my best to make it right for you. And but if you have a certain request, because of the nature of it, I'll go through. We were talking about one like this earlier. So this one, generally speaking, my brushes are anywhere from about 4 inches up to about, I think, 7 or 8 inches long. This one comes in on the 8-inch length. And bamboo, as you know, is, in a manner of speaking, a segmented tube. And here's where one segment ends, right here. And then right here, you don't see it because I cut it off, but that's where the other segment is. If the space between the segment and here gets too short, the bamboo has a greater chance of cracking. Not to say that it will, but it sometimes happens. It's harder to detect if that's the case. So if something is too long and you cut it off, you don't want to cut it off too close to the segment. You can cut it off on this side of it, but if you just leave a little bit of it, it's more likely the stresses that exist right between there and there, I should do it that way, sorry, between there and there, is what can cause problems. But rather than even opening the door to that, if that happens and it's too long, tell me about it when you get it, and then I'll arrange to replace it. And unreasonable shipping is really expensive, so it's better to let me know before then. I just can't, literally, if somebody buys a brush and I have to ship it and then pay to return it and then pay to ship it again, it's just flat out not worth it. I can't be in business to throw away money for whimsy like that. I have an express disclaimer that for aesthetic reasons, I don't typically allow returns or exchanges. But if you're willing to pay the shipping on it, I'm willing to work it out for you. And some of the brush, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So that's another thing is that, right now with the way things are in the world, shipping is kind of an interesting thing, because there's extra duties and different things attached. I just shipped some things out the other day, one to the province next to us and one package to Maryland, to two of the people that I've become friends with online. And yeah, there was quite a process just to get it, and it was just like an envelope style package with some paintings in it. But yeah, to just do that, it was quite involved, just getting it out of my hands and into the post offices.
Yeah, absolutely. International shipping has become an issue. I do a really good job of packaging because I ship all over the world. Last time I checked, I was in the 60 nation area for the places I sent. Just in the last month, I added, let me think for a second, Norway and Finland and South Korea to the list of nations where I send things to. I think it's really cool. I'm really honored that people from thousands of miles away are interested to buy the brushes. And I had to, I hate to drop into politics. I'm a highly political creature, but I don't like to bring that into the online part of it. But due to the latest administration, there were a lot of changes to shipping. And so I changed up my packaging. I actually improved it slightly. And I used to send things priority for, it's not nothing. I have to cover my time and my costs when I'm shipping. I'm not Amazon. I can't bundle that into the cost of the brush. So I do it separately. And so the shipping tends to be not inexpensive, but I do offer tracking on it, and I do also offer insurance on it. And so I had to change the way that I did all of that, and some for the better. I used to ship everything in the United States by priority mail. Well, priority mail, again, starting about a year ago, it always slows down a bit during the holidays, but it never sped up after the holidays. And priority mail advertises itself as like 3 to 5 business days to get to you. And it was taking 7 days, 10 days to get to people just like 2 states away. And it never got fixed. So I changed it, and they also raised the prices substantially for it. So I changed it to what's called Ground Advantage, which is, it's not priority shipping, but it's as fast as priority mail used to be. And then I also offer for not much more shipping by UPS, which is like 3 days on average, 2 days to 3 business days. Mm-hmm. And then for international, I do much the same. I have Ground Advantage, which is 2 to 3 weeks delivery time, closer to 3 weeks this time of year. And pardon me. And also I use either UPS or FedEx for international shipping for 7 to 10 day delivery time. That's not the time between order and delivery. It's the order between shipping and delivery. So it's I've gone with more cost efficient, call it less expensive options in some cases. In some cases, it's a little bit more, but it actually gets there in the time frame it says it does. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, in addition to the complexities and added cost, unfortunately, USPS and some of what was formerly their faster shipping, it isn't even faster anymore. It's just more expensive. So very frustrating on a number of fronts. Yeah. And I guess the United States government is backing off on some of the tariffs and other things they're doing because, surprise, people don't like having that surcharge thrown at them. Yeah. And anyway, I'll walk away from the topic at that point.
Yeah. Well, and I just, as you're telling me all of these amazing things that you do, I'm reminded, and then I want to remind our accomplices that, being an artisan is more than just putting some brushes together or putting some paint on a paper. You have to be a scientist, an architect, an engineer, a logistics person, not to mention the paperwork. You put out a monthly newsletter that is so amazing and thorough, and you put links in there to artists who are using your products so people can use them. And thank you for the shout outs on those. I do appreciate that. So it's to me, to have one of these in my hand, it reminds me every time I pick it up just how much goes into it. And not only that, but the heart, not just the mental stuff that makes all the things tick, but the heart that goes into it to know that you care about every bristle and every piece that goes into this, so that each artist, no matter whether they're a watercolor painter, an acrylic painter, an oil, a potter, whatever they want to use your material, your brushes for, they're going to have the best experience possible. And that's so amazing to me. And
well, thank you.
It comes out in the brushes. Like there's sort of a living, a vibe to them. And every time I talk to you, it even feels stronger. And I learn more about what you put into the things that you do on a daily basis, so that the rest of us can benefit. And boy, I sure appreciate that.
Well, thanks. It's a passion for me. I really enjoy the work. In one of my recent newsletters, I am a lifetime learner. I am, but I refer to myself as a knowledge junkie. And probably the last 2 years, I started to study psychology. I started to study psychology when I was first starting college back in the late 1970s. And at that time, basically psychology was a manner of treating people with serious disorders. And since then, there's been a huge revolution in how psychology can not only help people with problems, but it can help people have better, happier lives or flourish. One of the fields that does this is a field called flow, and I mentioned it a couple of newsletters ago. And flow is what happens to you when you are painting, when you're doing something that involves your concentration, and it takes you away from any type of other random thoughts. Oh, my kids we need this, and I want to do this, and all that stuff goes away and it's replaced by just concentration on the moment that you're doing. And I get a lot of that. In fact, I came across this book only like maybe 2 or 3 months ago. Since then, I've read 4 or 5. I'm on my 5th book on the topic of what's called flow. A person named, it's the funniest name, but it's really cool. It's Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. It's Hungarian. I don't know what the translation might be, but he's not the first person to come across the concept of flow. Of course, it's been happening through all of humanity, but he's the first person to have put it together as a concept and show you how to get into that state and how to. There's some people that literally, and I found out after reading the book, I'm one of them, that literally will arrange their life so that they can spend as much time in flow as they do. I got that enjoyment out of working in IT. I got that work out of doing what I was doing when I was working in academia. I certainly get it from psychology. And one of the things that I get it from making the brush bristles also, but in making the handles, it's one of the most fun things because you're focused right on what you're doing, and it all happens in real time. And the end result, you can see it take place right before your eyes. It's just like painting. It's not just a creative process, but it's a very focused process where you are refining and refining and refining. And it's built into painting in a big way because at first it's a struggle to learn. It takes concentration. Anything you're willing to take the time to learn is really a well-focused thing. Well, anyway, that's why I brought it up in the newsletter, because it's what everybody that paints does. And it drives a lot of what I do. Is I really like to improve the product. I've been doing it for several years, and it would be interesting to see some of the brushes that I made at first, which were made with the same focus, but you do something 5 or 10,000 times, you're going to do a better job than in the first few hundred times, even if the first few hundred times were superb. Yeah. And my work is all done by hand, just as your work, and everybody that paints, it's all handmade. And every time we learn a new technique, we go, I can combine this with that. And so anyway, the topics are really good. One book I would highly recommend is named Finding Flow by the same author. It's available on audiobooks as well as on general narratives. I can't recommend it enough. It can literally transform lives. And just as a good paintbrush can transform a life, it gives you a tool that will inspire confidence. And that makes all the difference in the world. And finding that there are other people that are knowingly doing what we're all doing, whether we realized it or not. And that's just trying to put ourselves in a better frame of mind. And it can become very seductive to do. So
I love that. And if you can, I can go back and find your newsletter, or if you just want to send me a quick note with the name and the author of that, I'll include it in the details below the video.
Sure, I will also. And I also want to make a note that I'm offering a promotion through the holidays, and the holidays actually will go through January, but through the end of December, I'm offering a 20% discount. Use the coupon word of Lynda, Lynda, and it will get a 20% discount for the brushes. It usually, for a lot of purchases, it basically covers the cost of shipping. I've thought of rolling the two in together, but it becomes really complicated because I ship all over the world, and what works in the US doesn't work if I'm shipping to, say, South Korea and or many places in Europe, for the reasons noted. And but anyway, it provides a nice discount on them. And
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Sure, I've been trying to avoid doing what everybody else in the world is doing, which is raising my prices, but just in the interest of being able to stay in business, I will be doing that after the first of the year. And I hate it. It's a long story, but as a small business, you have to do what you can to stay competitive. And I always get back into the corner, like if I don't, I'm literally subsidizing doing this type of thing. Yeah. And it's just increasingly hard to do. Used to be easier, but
well,
anyhow.
It definitely is worth it. And like I say, even one brush, like you say, your large goat synthetic blend can do wonders. As a starting out painter, probably the best choice ever. With more experience, like I say, I wouldn't be without my little medium goat hair with a 5-inch handle. It has taken me through through my watercolor journey for years and helped me evolve as a painter. Um, so I just, like I said, one or two brushes. If that's what what you can afford, you don't need to buy a dozen. It would be great if you did, but start with one and see what a game changer that will be. And I think anybody who does will certainly appreciate the value that they get in your brushes and in the prices that you offer and the precise and heartfelt care that you put into each one.
Thank you so much. That's just, I can't tell you how much it tickles me to hear that type of thing. I like to toil away in relative anonymity. That's a word that's hard for me to get out. And it just blows me away, some of the feedback I get. I have a testimonials page that I need to update, and people say the most extraordinary things about the brushes, just as you just done. And it just tickles me to hear that.
Well, that's great. I think we're just about to the end of our time here, Tracy. If there's any other talking points you wanted to touch on, I just love to hear all of the things that you have to share. So let me know if there's
Oh,
anything else you want to add.
thanks. Yeah, I think that covers it. When I was going to school, I was going to be a professor, so I learned how to run my mouth a lot and run my fingers even more. And so if you get me going, I will just continue to go and go and go. And one of the things they never teach you when they want you to be a professor is when to shut up. And so I'm not the best at doing that type of thing. But check out my newsletter. You can opt out of it anytime. And I go on not ridiculous length about things. I'll be doing that in the not too distant future. I'm going to start writing on psychology, on positive psychology, as it's called. And that'll be after the first of the year. I'll make links to that in future newsletters. So when I finally get the time to sit down and do it, those are like 20-page articles where I'm so far I've read, I couldn't tell you, 30 to 50 books on various topics in psychology. I like to get to the point where I'm saturated and I can do it from my head. That's a good knowledge level that you have to do that. And I'm just starting to get there. I'm not there yet. Probably another 50 books or so, I'll be comfortable. And well, it's just what it takes to get good at something, I mean, imagine, I don't know how long ago did you start painting?
About 10 years ago. About 10 years ago.
So, and with anything, after many years of doing things, you're far more versed and far more comfortable than you were even in the first 5 years.
Absolutely.
And
And I often say, because going back to your brushes, they're so precisely made that I can tell just by the subtle feel of them how much pigment load and water load I have on my brush.
oh yeah, I can believe it. It's the nature of the way that they are made. And
Yeah.
once
And
again,
so
I thank you so much.
yeah, so it's yeah, you learn these over time. It's through experience. It's through the sense and the feel of them. So we'll put the link to your website in the details, and on the website is where they can hook into your receiving your email, sign up to receive your email. Is that
Right.
how? Yeah.
Yes, correct. And then also with the email is the whatever promotion I'm doing at the time. And so yeah, that covers it. I could go on forever, but
Well, we'll do this
probably better
again.
to
We'll do
not.
this again. I so enjoy these sessions with you, and yeah, definitely we'll do this again when you have time. Maybe in the spring, we'll touch base again and see how your winter went, and if you've met any new bears or anything.
Fortunately, they go away this time of year. Last year, the last one I saw was in early December,
Mm.
and but I've only seen one. It was a baby bear just over there, and that was in spring, and I haven't seen any since then. Not that I'm upset about that. I've seen signs of them one time. They like to scratch in the we have some old growth here that was cut down back in the 1970s,
Mhm.
and they'll scratch into that to see if they can find any critters or bugs or anything like that living in them, because that's what they do.
Right.
I'll go into greater detail about bear. I learned a lot about that when I was being visited by them way too often last year.
I have another question just before you go. You'd
Sure.
mentioned raccoons come to visit you. Have you ever made a
Yes.
raccoon brush?
No, no. I have not worked with them. There's one of the key details about brushes that make them good is that they have to have a very long, fine taper to them. And I don't participate in the collection of the pelts. Number one, I would have mixed feelings about working with raccoons and then feeding them out on the deck. It just wouldn't go well. It's just not in my heart to do that kind of thing. And So I haven't. They may make good brushes. I don't know. I don't know of anybody that does that. A lot of the bristle types that I make for the natural hair brushes came from what my cousin did. He was one of the best brush makers on the planet, and I figured he had a 20-year go at it. He had every opportunity in the world, and I kind of picked up where he left off. And then the newer technology, the newer synthetic brushes are made of a material called Taclon. When he was doing it, most brush bristle material was made of variations of vinyl, which has all the springiness of a shower curtain. Literally, it's basically the same thing. So he never touched any of the synthetics. And so I have four that I offer that range from the synthetic sable, which is not too soft, but very soft and super fine point and very springy, up to the stuff that I use for, I call it my stiff white synthetic, which is springy air. The difference between, they have the same material, but the diameter of the material is what makes the difference. And the thicker the diameter during the body of the filaments is what makes them more or less springy.
And I have one here, I just don't know where it went.
So, and I make four of them. There's the synthetic sable, there's the brown
This
synthetic.
is a soft white, it says.
Right, and that's the older version I had for the synthetic sable.
Okay.
And it's funny, the Goten synthetic has always been my number one seller since I offered it, and the number two seller was the soft white synthetic. I used to just do shows, and at the shows, people get to put their hands on it, and they when you do order off the web, you just don't get that opportunity. So what I did is I renamed them from soft white synthetic to synthetic sable, and just like that, they went back to being my number two seller. Go figure, the power of a name.
Right?
And
Oh, that's amazing.
I may have another one that's a brown synthetic. It's a little bit springier, does just as nice of a tip as the synthetic sable does. Then the orange synthetic, which is springier, doesn't produce as nice of a tip unless it's a really small diameter. My itty bitty orange synthetic, that's one of the few that I offer. It's the only synthetic I offer for an itty bitty series. And then the stiff white synthetic is the go-to for like acrylics. Heavy body acrylics are more viscous. There are some watercolors that are really viscous too. They're pretty rare, but it's anything that's a more dense and a more viscous paint that really comes into its own on. If you work with oils, if you work with heavy body acrylics, some of the inks are very viscous also. So it's good for that. And then also some people, even if they work with watercolors, they just want a springier brush. The brush largely doesn't care what it does. The body of one brush is more similar than not to the body of another brush when it's a loaded paintbrush. And so, but what makes a brush easier to work with if it has just the right feedback. When I used to do shows, it was easy. I could watch somebody work and say, try this one. You can tell in seconds just by looking at it. And they love them across the board, but it's harder to do when we're working with this type of format. I wish I could come up with a good solution for that. And if I ever launch my own YouTube page, I have something in mind for doing that, but I'll get there if I ever get there. It would take a whole studio to do it, right?
Well, I just do mine. Lorenz comes and shoots my videos for me, and I'm just in my little home studio, decommissioned suite downstairs, and so I have a sink, I have a fridge if I need it. But yeah, we do what works for us, and I think as long as we're creating, and people, I just wanted to add this, people who tell me that they don't have a creative bone in their body, I firmly believe that as long as you're putting thought to something, you're creating, and you're a creative, and you should celebrate that. I think that's an amazing thing that, an ability that we have as human beings. So.
Oh, absolutely. The willingness to try is everything. And the thing is, a lot of people, painting for some reason, a lot of people are intimidated by it. And the goal is to be able to try something once and knock out a Rembrandt. It's never going to happen. I mean, there's that one in a million that can do that type of thing. They're just wired that way. But for most of us, it takes some practice. But good guidance by somebody such as yourself and good tools. You don't have to have my brushes. They're not the end all be all. You can get good brushes without mine. What mine are really good brushes. They're comfortable to work with. They are a point of delight for anybody that has them. Nobody's ever unhappy about them, but you don't have to have them. What's really important is just the willingness to try and then say, okay, I did this right. I did this right. What can I do next time to improve it? And it will get you into a place in your life, if you stick with it, that otherwise is not so easy to get to. And that's the flow state I was talking about. And generally speaking, the willingness to try that type of thing improves every life that it touches. And the other side of that is if you give up easily, that's a whole story unto itself. And sometimes it's just not right for people. They may not have the
Mhm.
patience for it, but for most, it is seductive enough, and it's not nothing by a long shot to be able to paint well, but it's something that is approachable by people just by willingness to try more than once. Maybe give it 10 tries, a real sincere effort. You'd be amazed at how much you will improve with it each time. And
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely. Well, I'm so happy to have spent this morning with you, Tracy. Thank you for heading out to your workshop in the throes of winter. I don't know what it's like there. It's not too snowy or wet here yet, but it's coming. And I just so appreciate this time. And like I said, I would love to do this again, maybe in the spring.
I look forward to any opportunity. Yeah, it was about 10 degrees below freezing here this morning, and the birds, when it gets cold, I give them extra food because it's really hard for them to find anything on their own this time of year.
Yeah.
That they're my morning friends as a rule.
Oh,
In one of the rooms in back, I have a skylight, and they have figured out that if I'm back there, if they wrap their beaks on the skylight, I become the automatic food dispenser for them. It's the funniest thing. They're very
oh,
intelligent creatures. They
I
never
love
cease to
that.
amaze with
I
that.
love that. That's great. Well, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, whatever that holds. And yeah, I'll look forward to to spending more time with your brushes. I'm hoping the winter will allow me more time at my desk here or my table. And yeah, we'll definitely do this again. Thanks so much, Tracy.
Lynda, thank you so much. It's really an honor to get to spend time with you. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Awesome. Terrific. All right, signing off.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks. Okay, bye-bye.